going on, guys? Mac Brosnan from the shop Houston, owner and driver of the Kimbo R35 GT-R. So originally when I got the car, I bought it as a full bolt-on car. I was 23. I spent all my money on it, money I didn't have probably. And then when I started getting into building GT-Rs on my own for my shop, I built it just to race on the street. That's all I like to do. No prep racing, street racing. So that was why we started to call it Kimbo. Originally, Kimbo's career before he went into the UFC, all he was a street fighter. So called it Kimbo. We liked the name. It started off making 1,000 horsepower, but it looked completely stock. We raced it like that for a while, only on the street, and that's why we call it Kimbo. I'm from Connecticut originally. You'll see on the car, you'll see Command Performance. So that was my shop, and that's where I had the car originally. That's where I was street racing the car. I needed to take the next step to get into the GT-R market, and the street racing was popular in the Northeast. The car was popular in the Northeast, but outside of that, nobody really knew anything about it because everything was so secret. Nobody knew how fast it was. It was only on the street. So I had to take the next step into getting into the GT-R market, the R35 market, by making it do something special. That's when we took the next step into making it more of a race car. So after that first event, it was GT-R World Cup 2018. The car was making 14 to 1500 stock manifolds, and we were racing in that class, and it made a big splash because everybody was trying to go 7s on the stock exhaust manifold, and we went 770s the first time out with the car. So it was a pretty big deal. That was our first big 1320 feature, so that's where it kind of started to gain some traction. Honestly, this versus that, because we've been on Street Outlaws and on Discovery and stuff like that, this versus that for us was like one of the best things. So much fun, we really enjoyed it. Something different, and we finally got back to racing the car on something like a no prep surface, so it was more back to like street racing. You're doing a little bit of negotiating, you're doing best 2 out of 3, so it was a really, really fun time. We first raced that Corvette, and then we got invited back to do Hoonicorn versus the World.
Officially the first person to beat the Hoonicorn.
So that was a big deal. We were and still the only car to beat the Hoonicorn. It's really not easy. Some people look at some of the Hoonicorn versus the World stuff, might think that the car is not that fast. It's only on 18-inch wheels. We went 182 miles an hour to 1,000 feet to beat that car. The shop is what really makes the car work. The shop funds the car, almost 100% for the most part, aside from sponsors, of course. We love our sponsors, and we couldn't do it without them, but it's a sacrifice to run a car like this. It really is. For one of these big events, I might have 3 out of my 5 guys working on the car 2 weeks prior to the event. That's 2 weeks where we're not working on customer stuff. It's not like it used to be where, we work on it for a couple days before the event and it's ready to go. Now we're working on it at the event the whole week. Some of these events now start on Tuesday, and you race eliminations on Sunday. So it's a huge sacrifice, and it takes a lot. I have a really good group of guys. I'm thankful for who I have. I say it all the time, they have no quit. I just love racing. That's it, and it's no question the GT-R is a great platform, and it has a lot of potential, but when it comes to competitive drag racing, the R35 just isn't the right car. It's really not. They have great potential, but I don't want to only race GT-Rs all my life, or only race against DCT cars at 2 or 3 events a year. I want to be able to compete, so that was the real motivation for the switch. It's, these transmissions are so expensive, and there's so many limiting factors, and they break, so it's just, there's way more negatives than there are positives. With the GR6, you can't stage the car, you can't bump in, you can't leave on a pro tree. It's a huge delay when you let off the brake, so you can't cut a light on a pro tree. It's just, like I said, there's so many more negatives than there are positives. So we drove all the way to Maryland one time. We don't have a spare transmission. They're 35 grand. We broke the trans on the first pass, and I was just done with it. Transmission, converter, shifter, everything that's in it right now is, $10,000 to $15,000 less than the GR6, and it's good for 5,000 horsepower. It's not going to break. A combination between all that stuff is really why we did it.
Kimbo essentially had the back half of the car and forward of the firewall cut off and redone by Little Race Car Innovation and Antoine Juicy Boots Johnson. The front is now tube frame, giving more room and options in the engine bay with Mensa Motorsport shocks, and the front hubs converted to spindle for the front runners with smaller brakes. Up the back, Little Race Innovations did the chassis work with a Strange Engineering full floater with TSR 9-inch housing. There's Strange Engineering third member and rear brakes, Mensa shocks, and a drive shaft shop carbon drive shaft. The suspension and chassis was set up by Miller Race Cars. Inside the car, you can see the tub work, an extensive roll cage plus the fire suppression system and carbon fibre dashboard. There's the tunnel work for the M&M Turbo 400 with M&M lock-up bolt-together converter, and you can see the shifter. Also note the CO2 boost control system. You can also see the water-to-air intercooler mounted in the cabin, which then feeds the MAD Sweden billet inlet manifolds that have been reversed, giving the engine bay a very unique look. So does the single turbo setup, having ditched the twins for one Precision Turbo Next Gen Pro Mod 8803 on a custom Boost Logic exhaust manifold with TurboSmart 60mm Pro Gate external wastegate. There is Tycon Industries titanium intake and intercooler piping with TurboSmart Raceport blow-off valves, which now feed throttle bodies that have been converted to cable operation. The Command Performance built VR38 uses an OEM block with center auto machine ported cylinder heads. It runs a dry sump system with Magnus Motorsport rear-wheel drive oil pan and tank. There's also some nitrous on board. Everything is controlled by a Motec M150 ECU with two Motec PDMs, keypad and C1212 digital dash. It's all good for 2100 horsepower and a PB of 669 at 217 miles per hour. On the outside, there is a Command Performance drag wing with chute underneath, N-Tune bumper and fenders, Cybin carbon hood and carbon trunk, Overtake carbon doors, and RC Components beadlock wheels. This combined with the wrap makes for one tough-looking R35 GT-R. Mack took out the GT-R Unlimited class at TX2K 2023 and is looking to do the same this year before taking on Australia's best at the 2024 PRP GT-R Festival USA.
I love watching all the stuff in Australia. I love seeing, and it seems like as of recently, a lot more 34s, 33s, not just 32s, but all the GT-Rs drag racing. There's all these parts, everything's getting stronger, everything's getting faster, and it's awesome to have competition. You know, we love competition. If there's not more than one person trying to go fast, what are you gonna do? You're the fastest, and then you just sit there and you're done. So that's a huge thing. I think it's gonna be a really good thing for the community, or GT-R guys, I should say, in general. You know, are very similar, and it's a relatively tight-knit community, at least in the US. I think it's gonna be a really big thing. I think we're gonna bring out a bunch of cars. We should have something for everything, something for all the classes. We have a really good customer base in Houston. And I also like that it's not just an event for drag racers. You don't have to have 2,000 horsepower to come. It's going to be for GT-R guys, and there's a lot of those, you know, because not everybody can have a 2,000 horsepower car or, you know, an 8-second car. So it's going to be great that there's going to be a little bit of everything and a little bit of something for everybody. It's what do the Australians have for us, really, you know? We're not scared of anybody. So I think I would like to, you know, race the fastest Australians there are, because everybody always says, it always comes up in conversation, you know, well, those cars down there went this fast. Well, we'll see what happens.